Age of Wonders 3 is a 4X fantasy game developed and published by Dutch developer Triumph Studios. The game has quite a bit of a legacy, with the original Age of Wonders being released in 1999, and the last time we saw the faintest glimpse of the series was in 2003. Age of Wonders 3 bravely attempts to merge the empire-building gameplay of a civilization game with the tactical turn-based combat you'd see in a game like Heroes of Might and Magic. No small task, but for the most part, the game succeeds. The game comes packed with content. It features 2 campaigns focusing on a conflict between the industrious and harsh Commonwealth and the tradition-soaked, nature-loving Elven Court. Both campaigns are interesting in their own right, and the voice acting is solid, but they serve more as a tutorial than anything else. The real experience lies in the random map-based games. The random map generator itself is pretty good, and even at default settings, manages to create a visually appealing and coherent world, littered with ruins, sunken cities, and dragon's lairs. You can of course change every aspect of the world before creating a map. Perhaps you want a more barren setting, or perhaps you want an ocean-heavy map. Age of Wonders 3 is more than happy to oblige. That kind of customization is interwoven throughout Age of Wonders 3, and the best part of that creative freedom is the character customization. Unlike other 4X games where you take control over an empire like some kind of bureaucratic god, in Age of Wonders 3, you need to create a hero. That hero sets up the foundation for your empire. When creating a hero, you get to choose from between 6 races and 6 classes, both of which carry their own unique units and abilities. In addition to that, each character must choose a general ability set, such as fire magic, exploration, and destruction. These general traits specialize your empire by providing it with spells and technologies unique to each of them. This means that you as a player can play the empire you want to play, and tailor it to your playstyle. Are you a goblin kingdom focused on military buffs and expansion? How about dwarves that specialize in subterfuge? One of my personal favorites is a high elf dreadnought. That way, I got to have elves with muskets in my army, and unicorns. Because unicorns are awesome. Also, I had giant steampunk robots. Once that's all done, you jump into the game itself. This is where things get interesting. The game walks a fine line between empire building and tactical combat, with a small dose of RPG for good measure. You start off managing a single settlement and hero. The city generates production, population, mana, knowledge, and gold. These resources, along with the units you can produce, are affected by the buildings constructed inside the city. The city itself exudes a border that defines your domain. When this border engulfs resource camps located on the map, such as gold mines, ruins, and great farms, those resources are then added to your empire's resource pool each turn. The player can of course build settlers and found more cities to expand their domain. Although despite dungeons giving you a bunch of resources, I have to question the civic planning that concludes that it'd be a great idea to build your town next to one. I mean, we all know how well that worked out for Tristram, right? Questionable city planning aside, to assist in this endeavor, there are several technologies and spells that can be researched based on the choices you made when you created your leader. These can range from spells like Fireball, which functions only in combat, to global powers that affect your entire empire, such as Suppress Nature, which causes all units to ignore terrain penalties. Your hero and others that join your cause will be used to capture resource nodes, lead your armies into battle, and perform the occasional quests for a neutral settlement, often netting you a reward, or even causing that settlement to join your empire. The heroes have a leveling system with some interesting traits that can affect them or the armies they lead. Plus, they have an inventory with a ton of slots for useful items. It's a nice addition, as a well-equipped hero can be a nightmare on the battlefield. Despite all of this, the empire building part of Age of Wonders 3 isn't particularly deep. Unlike civilization, there is only one path to victory, namely conquest. This means most buildings are geared towards creating and improving units and your hero. As mentioned earlier, there are a few which increase resource generation, but that inevitably goes towards unit production. Really, the empire building in Age of Wonders 3 is more of a functional, if somewhat simple engine to get your units into the fray. As such, it means systems like diplomacy are pretty weak, and the AI's personality and diplomatic relations can flip from kind-hearted and nice to I want to eat your babies in a turn, making it a little difficult when trying to forge an alliance. Once words and negotiations fall through, you'll have to bring your armies to bear. When two forces collide, you are taken to a small battlefield map that utilizes a hex grid. The look and the obstacles on the battlefield change depending on where the conflict takes place. This includes naval battles, castle sieges, and even structures located on resource nodes. It means battlefields tend to be quite diverse and present unique challenges. This is where Age of Wonders 3 really shines. The tactical combat is fast, but requires players to put some forethought into how they maneuver their units. The combat system utilizes an action point system, where each unit has 3 action points that refresh at the end of each turn. The further they move their unit, the less action points they have. This restricts the amount of attacks they can make and the abilities they can use. What's more, a unit uses up action points when it retaliates against an aggressor. This means that a poorly placed unit can find itself helpless and unable to act in the following round. Couple the system with a large variety of racial and class-based units, unit abilities, powerful heroes, and a plethora of spells at your command, and you'll find most battles a joy to take part in. It's not all peach trees and sunny days though. You have no control over your army's formation, there is no deployment phase, and the game doesn't do the best job of arranging units. Sometimes I would find my archers in the front row of combat, only to be cut down by enemy cavalry in the first turn. Similarly, you could get slow meta units stuck in the back row that take forever to get to the fight. Another thing some folks might find off-putting is that you can only ever have 6 units in an army. However, this is mitigated by the fact that all units, yours and enemies, around the hex you attack attack, take part in the battle. It's worth noting that they do give you the option to auto-resolve conflicts before you jump into the tactical map. This allows you to skim over unfair or obviously easy battles. There is a lot going on in this game, and for people new to the 4X genre it may be a bit daunting. But Triumph did a good job by creating something called the Book of Wonders. It serves a similar purpose to the Civilopedia in Civilization. It's an in-game book that contains detailed explanations about all the game's concepts, units, powers, and much more. It's a nice addition that allows people just stepping into the genre to come to terms with its nuances quite quickly. All of this gameplay is delivered with a beautiful aesthetic, and visually the game is quite appealing. The strategic map in particular is gorgeous. The generated worlds are coherent, and small touches like birds flying, shimmering water, and animated resource nodes all add to it. Occasionally, too much so. In amidst all this, I often found it difficult to see the small flags that indicate control over a resource node, and sometimes the entire node itself was obscured. It might be a little bit too busy. In combat, the graphics are decent, but when zoomed in really close, you'll be able to see that the quality of models isn't hugely impressive. However, you're already that zoomed in, and when taken as a whole, it's a pleasure to see two armies clash. Your units are easy to identify, as are the enemies, and castle sieges never fail to impress with their amazing backdrops. The icing on top of all of this is the sound design. The music is suitably epic, and the ambient noise on the map is a great small touch. From birds chirping to the sound of snowstorms, it all just adds to the immersion. The combat sounds are a little weak, but they work, and it's a thrill to hear a volley of musket fire followed by the shouts of felled enemies. Overall, Age of Wonders 3 delivers a solid 4X experience, admirably merging tactical combat with empire building. While the empire management may be lacking in depth, there is so much customization and player choice when it comes to how you play your empire that it remains fun. That enjoyment gets amplified when you take into account its excellent turn-based combat that encourages planning and preparation. Combine all of this with a great fantasy aesthetic and you have something truly special. And that's why I give it my seal of approval. So if you're a fan of 4X games or like the idea of ruling a fantasy empire of your own design, I highly recommend checking out Age of Wonders 3. You can find it on Steam for $39.99 or your regional equivalent. Cheers Internet, and thanks for watching. I'm GazWorks, and I'll catch you next time.